Very tricky last movement. It goes very rapidly. Of course, I might have played it a little under tempo because it's vivace, and it's in a rondo form where you have an A section, and then you have a departure from that, a middle section, and you come back to the A, and you go away from it and come back. And it has this beautiful little motif of 2/16 and 2/8 notes with staccato to a springboard over to a G. And the way I think of it, I think in one in these first measures, not 3/8. I think of one. Then I think of two measures bundled into one, those last two. One. It's a nice little lilt to it, especially if you use your wrist motions, your forward wrist rolls, these. You don't use just finger tapping and freezing your wrists and fingers, but you let that flow of your arms go through the supple wrist and have these little waves into the 16th notes, because there's so many that end up ensuing through this. You don't want a flat dynamic or a flat sounding finger pointing kind of sound. You want a rolling feeling through this. Feel that. And especially now with this motif of the 2/16 to the 2/8 staccato notes is softer, so you get yada less, yada less. Less on the second one, because on all of the repeated staccato notes. The second one should be lighter, and that allows the wrist to sort of play it with a lighter arm. That's what's happening there. In the left hand, you have this rolling contour of broken chords in the beginning, in the first section. And so blocking them first is a good idea. Blocking the three notes of each measure, which form chords. Just to make sure you're very relaxed. And when you roll them, I tend to go to a forward wrist roll as opposed to a rotation. You could do a little rotation too, but I find myself just going forward and forward and forward. May look like I'm doing side rotation, but I'm basically going forward. And you want to keep that way down, because your dynamics are going to be plied in the right hand. Even in the forte areas, especially when he starts softer, that's very much below. It comes back louder. This doesn't get louder, this does. Because you can imagine if you start pounding away at that left hand, the whole balance gets interrupted. It sounds like it's music written at a later time where you want all this power. Because this is a very lighthearted movement, and even when you play forte, you run the risk of it getting too kind of driven into the keyboard, as opposed to keeping the buoyancy even through those forte passages. That's hard to do, especially if your piano is very bright. It's going to probably over-project it a bit. Now in the second part, he borrows the first motif, which was yada. Takes a piece of it and just goes yada, just a piece of it, and then he goes into this clashing two measures. This first measure is the clashing measure. If I block it together, you're getting the tonic C major against its 7 chord. 7 chord is B, D, F. It's just inverted it. So he's giving you the clashing 7th here, major 7th, and the clashing major 2nd in that measure. So you're going to lean on that dissonant measure but you want to always a little bit lighten up to the resolution measure, which is the very next one, so that you don't get harmonically imbalanced. You get this. I am making a little bit less on the C major resolution there, because I don't really want to hammer that out. But I want enough tone, even on the resolution measure, to come back down to which he does late right next to it. So that's a real clash of dynamics. What he's doing here is the tonic to the sixth chord. It's the A minor chord. It's a beautiful little pairing of tonic to sixth chord. It's always nice. Sixth chord is a substitution chord. It's not a deceptive cadence. It's simply going tonic, sixth chord. Now that sixth chord can also be a pivot chord to what's coming next, being the two chord at the same time of G major. Here's the dominant and tonic. As if he did this. I don't sort of hear it as a pivot at all. I hear it as just a beautiful next door neighbor, sixth chord to the beautiful tonic to the sixth. That's how I hear it. You get that sixth chord. Make it pretty. Now he goes right into the dominant. Has a forte here, which I roll into. Mostly in the right hand I do that dynamic, and I never fall down hard on the F sharp, which is a leading tone of G major, but I roll into the forte, roll into the arm weight of the forte. And then you have to resolve it down. I'm not going to smack that G there, which is a resolution from its dominant right before it. Now the rest continues forte. Now this is the first time we have a long stream of 16th notes, and you don't want them to get too flat sounding, that they just get punched out with very articulated fingers. I mean, then you lose this sort of charming quality. You get that from shaping. With that wrist rolls, little wrist rolls. Forward wrist roll. And this is just doesn't have staccato on it, so I would tend not to have super crisp releases on it. I would sort of press lift them. Because before that we had the true staccato. Less. Now here we have that beginning idea of the 16ths to the 2/8. Each one is getting softer. And then a little roll into. What I do there is I do a little swell at the beginning of that measure so I can do the diminuendo to the double P. That's where I'm going to use the soft pedal on this piano, because I have to play that the softest time that it's going to be heard. And that E, D, C, C was heard piano, it was heard forte, and this is the first time it's heard coming back home to the home key C. You hear it as double P. So that's why when I come down, all through that I use my soft pedal. And then I go back to my no pedal and using the forte with the arm weight and leaning toward the right hand, doing the plying of the dynamics again. This comes C major. Push those chords. Push, push, push. So you don't get this kind of percussive, pointy, sharp kind of chords. You get the kind of round chords at the end. Now we came back to the home key with the same streams of 16th notes that were what I just demonstrated in G major are back home to C major, and you want to shape those nicely too. See how you use your wrists, applying your wrists at the end. And again, I'm not playing the left hand loud through the very end, which says crescendo. I'm doing that in the right hand. Because what's going to happen if you do both hands, this is going to start to offset the attention toward the melodic part. You know, these are chords, they have melody at the top of the chords, the G, the C, the G, the C. So that's it. Now if you want to play this a little quicker, you want to really be, I'm just going to do a little bit, you want to really be breathing very naturally. Really focus on your breath, because when you get faster, people tend to choke up and get tight, and that means the muscles get tight, the arm gets tight, the wrist gets tight, and everything gets kind of restricted to this very narrow little area of your hands, which really can't absorb the demands of this piece. It really needs flowing arms and feeling of course, the rhythm, the circles that you feel in this, and the waves of the 16th notes.